Hey guys, Brendan Rubio Tools, aka BYOT. Thank you for joining me, and today, if you want to learn how to make a magnetic knife block from scratch, starting from this and turning into this, keep on watching. Let's get started. Now this project originated with this scrap piece of wood that I actually had since BYOT number 23, and that was when I built the beautiful black American walnut dining room table. If you haven't checked that one out, please do so because that one turned out quite amazing as well. Now, as you can obviously see, there's a very large crack down the middle of this board, which definitely is the reason why I cut it off to begin with. I'm actually going to be just placing some tape on both sides and filling it from the top. I'm going to be filling the crack with epoxy, and I'm going to be utilizing Total Boat Epoxy Resin. Now, in all honesty and full disclosure, they approached me and wanted to be featured on my channel. They sent me this amazing care package, and they offered all my viewers 20% off when they go use the promo code BYOT. Now, I'll be using larger quantities in other projects down the road, but I wanted to make sure that everyone had this promo code if they're in need of an epoxy kit. So please use that, and I'll be leaving a link in the description box below on where to get it. Now, as for filling this crack, I really should have done a better job of making sure there was going to be no seepage coming through the tape. I thought it was going to be strong enough just because of the fact that it's such a small amount of epoxy being poured into it. But as you can see later, yes, it did seep out. So I did have to apply some extra support. So just know that and don't do what I did there. Yeah, I'm not perfect. But we had to clean it up anyways, so I just put it through the table saw, got a few of the ends cleaned up, as well as the chop saw, and then proceeded to flattening out this material. Now, if you watched BYOT number 46, we created a router sled, and I'll be utilizing that router sled in this video to clean off both top and bottom of the board. Now, as you can see, this router really glides over the material very easily and fully flattens the entire surface, which makes it perfect and makes my life just a little bit easier, which I always appreciate. Now, I want to add just a bit more character to this board, which is why I'm going to be cutting some angles on both sides. Now, I never shy away from character, and in all honesty, I just watched Pulp Fiction. I'm just thinking of that line from the wolf talking to the woman, saying, "Honey, you are a character. It doesn't mean that you have character." Yeah, well, hopefully I'm a little bit of both, right? Moving on. And as you can see, we're using a plunge router to plunge into the wood, creating spaces for the magnets themselves. Now, these magnets are 1-inch diameter round, which is perfect for this bit because it creates a perfect hole dimension for the magnets to fit into. And as you can see, I tested it out just to make sure they held the knife in place. When working with a router, just know that you have to be extremely careful with the fact that this is a very high RPM device and could create major damage if you were not holding it properly. So just be careful, as well as the fact that make sure you have proper eye, ear, and some type of mask so you're not breathing all this stuff in. Yeah, right? No one wants to breathe in sawdust. I do like the smell of sawdust, but when it's in the throat, yeah, not so much. And in the end, you should have something that looks like this. Just note that it doesn't have to look perfectly symmetrical. Just know that it has to be consistent all the way through so the knives fit and adhere to the board properly. Now, to adhere the magnets to the board, I add a small dollop of epoxy to each hole. Who says dollop anymore? What am I, from the 1950s? Anyways, I apply a small dollop to the hole, I mix in the epoxy thoroughly, and then I add one magnet to each hole, just one. That way I can allow it to dry and adhere to the surface. Then once it's dry, I can then proceed with filling the holes with the remaining magnets. Now, as you will see from the outtake, these are very strong magnets, and in all honesty, I didn't need to fill all these holes with the maximum amount of magnets I could jam in there. So there is a sweet spot to try and hit, but inevitably try and test as you go before you proceed with adding the maximum amount of magnets in all of the holes. Just, note to self. Now after I'm done filling the holes with magnets, I then proceed to pour epoxy into each hole. I want a nice flat, even surface on the back side of the board, and inevitably I figured that this was going to be the easiest way to do so by just filling each hole with epoxy. I then grab my trusty blowtorch and apply a bit of heat to the epoxy just to pop all the bubbles. Very easy and quite satisfying if I don't say so myself, right? Yeah. Now after the epoxy has dried, I then clamp the board to a solid surface, and I decide to use my scraper to scrape off all the excess epoxy. Now it does take a few swipes across the wood, but inevitably this is a very quick, easy process. After that, I grab my router and a round over bit and just round over the top edge in order to make a nice, even, professional look. Now this is obviously a step that you don't have to do, but in all honesty, it's a very quick, easy process to do so, and it just adds a bit more of a dimension to your wood finished product. I mean, come on, look at that edge. Look at it. So nice. I then grab my orbital sander and work my way from 120 to 200 grit. Now sanding is obviously a very vital step with woodworking, so just make sure you do your due diligence with this step. Now the last step I do before I proceed to finishing is I actually drill out some keyholes on the back side. This will allow me to easily install the board onto a walled surface afterwards. Now it's just a different drill bit. As you can see, it's a very unique shape, but it serves its purpose perfectly, and it's very easy to apply to any wood surface. Now one of the main key elements that you have to think about when routing out a keyhole is the fact that you need to make sure they're perfectly straight and in line with each other. If they're not in line with each other, then there's potential that the board is not going to look straight once it's being applied to the wall, or it's just going to be much more difficult to install in the first place. Before I apply finish to this board, I then take some mineral spirits and wipe off any of the dust and debris on the board to make sure that we have a nice, beautiful, clean surface to work off of. As I'm waiting for the board to dry, I then take my Rubio Monocoat Oil Plus 2C finish and mix it up. Now there are specific mixing instructions because it's not just a one-to-one, so make sure it's evenly dispersed as well as mixed thoroughly afterwards. Now for the last ditch effort to get all the sawdust and debris off this board, I take a tack cloth and actually wipe down the wood just before I apply finish. Now you don't have to do this step, of course, but it is surprising how much little dust and debris this thing picks up even after you wiped it down. So just think about that in any woodworking project. Now I'm applying finish to the back side first with a foam brush, and then I will be wiping it down and then placing it on blocks in order to finish the top off thoroughly. Now the beauty of this product is the fact that it's extremely easy to apply, as well as the fact that you only need to apply it once. That's why it's called a monocoat, yes. Once you do apply it thoroughly to the entire surface, then proceed to just letting it sit there for approximately 5 to 10 minutes, and then coming back and using a very clean cloth in order to wipe off all the excess. You want to make sure you wipe off all the excess, because if you don't, it's going to leave a very tacky, uneven surface. Now we've come time to actually installing it. Yes, finally. So what I do is I actually proceed to making sure that I have exact measurements of the spacing between the keyhole to keyhole. Then I correlate those measurements to the wall. Now I'm applying the measurements to the tape first because I don't like to mar up the walls, and this helps me protect them. I then drill a few holes and plug in hollow wall anchors. And if you have not worked with these before, these things are pretty amazing and hold a tremendous amount of weight, so these are easily able to hold this board with as many knives as I can possibly apply to it. After the wall anchors are in, go ahead and take the tape off and install your board, and oh my goodness, yes, a little bit more slow motion please. That is one beautiful, sexy beast of a knife block that's magnetized, right? I mean, look at it. Look at it. Come on. Who wouldn't love that in their home, right? I think it's quite amazing. And there you have it, episode number 47 of BYOT done. I really appreciated the fact that this was more of a statement piece, as well as the fact that it showcases the knives. Yes, the knives that I have just jammed into drawers, you can't really see them. Now, it's a beautiful statement piece on the wall, and I enjoy it. Hopefully you guys did as well. In any case, thank you for your time. Please like video, please subscribe to this channel, and please check out my Instagram feed. I post there weekly. In any case, for your time, and catch you next time. Yeah, maybe use a few less magnets next time. That was a bit aggressive. Yeah.